Alright, so now we need to create our platform objects, and we're going to be doing that using our 2D array that we created. And again, for every letter here that's a P, we're going to be creating a platform object, and that's what we're going to be blitting onto the screen as our background. Okay, so here we have our level, and now we're going to iterate through our level by adding this nested for loop. All right. So how does this for loop work? Well, for row in level, that means row is going to be equal to this element first. Then it's going to be equal to that element on the second iteration. It's going to be equal to the third element in the third iteration, and so on. Right? So let's pretend we're in the first iteration. Row is equal to the string p, right? And then we enter into the inner for loop. And row is going to be equal to p, and it's going to iterate, and column is going to be equal to the first p, then column is going to be equal to the second p, and then when the inner for loop iterates again, column is going to be equal to the third p until it reaches the end of the row. And when it reaches the end of the row, it's going to come back up, and the for loop is going to get the next row, and the next row, and the next row, right? All right. So what are we doing for each instance of P? Well, if column is equal to P, we're going to make a platform, and we're going to increment our X and Y values. All right, so look, we need to have an X and a Y. It's going to be equal to Y, it's equal to 0. So when we create our first P, right, when this catches, and the first time that that catches, it's going to be this P in the top left corner, right? And when we make our platform, we're going to pass in our X and Y variable as arguments to the platform, right? Why is that important? Because the X and Y value that is coming in to the constructor corresponds with the X and Y value of that sprite's or that surface's rect. So that X and Y value tells Pygame where it's going to be blitted onto the screen. And this one here is going to be blitted at 0, 0. So his top left corner is going to appear at the top of the screen, top left of the screen. Right? Okay, great. So that's what happens there. And once that happens, X is incremented by 32. So X moves from here, well, here to here. Right? Or if we're talking graphically, it moves from here at 0 to 32 here, right? And the for loop iterates again. Column is equal to the next P in the first row, and this catches. This is true. So we make another platform at 32 and 0 because Y has not changed. Y has not changed, right? We only incremented X. So the next platform is going to be created, and his rect, this guy's rect, is going to be with its X position at 32 and its Y position at 0. Right? So when we go ahead and blit it later on, it's going to be placed with this top left corner at 32 on the X and 0 on the Y, which is going to put them right here. All right. And this inner for loop is going to iterate and iterate and iterate, and that X position is going to keep on incrementing as you move towards the right. When this finishes, right, this inner for loop finishes, we're done with the first row of P's here, right? And we're going to, before we get the second row, this algorithm is going to increment the Y by 32. So we are moving down one row on the map. The X is reset back to 0. So talking graphically, we're here, right? We finish making that last platform, and then Y is incremented by 32. So Y goes from 0 to 32 down here, and X is reset back to 0, bringing it all the way back to the left over to here, right? And so when the next set, and then when it finishes this, it's going to come back up row is going to be the next row, which is this one here. And then we're going to iterate through all the different P's, right? So the first P here is going to be a platform at 0, 32. So that means when we go ahead and draw him later on onto the screen, we're going to put him at 0, 32, which is right here. And this is the P that we are creating, right? And then for every space here, right, for every space, we are incrementing X, but we are not creating a platform, right? So that means by the time we get to the last character, the P, X has been incremented all the way to the right. And when we make that platform, that his X value is going to be the rightmost side of the screen, right? Before it comes on down and it increments Y and sets X back to 0, right? This is moving down another row on the Y and resetting the X to bring us back to the left side of the screen. And then we're going to come back up into the for loop and get the next row. Right? So that's how this algorithm here works. What we're doing is for every P that is in this 2D array, we are creating a surface and we are setting his X position and his Y position accordingly onto the map, okay, using these two variables, X and Y. All right. So by the end of this, we have these set of surfaces. Right. Now, what we're going to do with them is we're going to blit them onto the screen. I'm not sure if I'm going a little too far ahead. Oh, yes, I am. So once we finish that, right, then the challenge exercise is to draw the platforms onto the screen using the sprite class, right? And what does the sprite class allow us to do? It allows us to make groups, put the surfaces, the objects into the group, and then update and draw using one command, right? Using a single command. And that's the challenge exercise. So now that we have created our platform objects, right? Well, now I want you to use a group to print them all out onto the screen. And what you should have when you do that is a window that looks just like this.